First, I'd like to go ahead and thank everyone for joining our roundtable today as we kick off the Startup Burke program. I'm Stephanie Kissel, co-founder of Supportedly. We've partnered with Dr. Welsh and Western Piedmont Community College to help bring Startup Burke to fruition. Startup Burke strives to bring entrepreneurial resources and community together digitally, helping everyday entrepreneurs and small business owners find answers to their questions, connect with our amazing resources like Suzanne at the Small Business Center, and learn through online learning modules that focus on information entrepreneurs need to help start and grow their businesses. Always, we do this with the entrepreneur's needs and perspective in mind. So with that said, we have brought a group together today to help us answer some commonly asked questions from entrepreneurs. So before we start the program, I do want to thank Dr. Joel Welch and Suzanne Wallace, president of Western Piedmont Community College and director of the Small Business Center, respectively. Their dedication and passion for this community has been apparent from every turn as we've worked together to build the Startup Burke program. So that's enough from me for the moment. And now I am very happy to introduce Dr. Joel Welsh to say a few words about the program and the role of Western Piedmont Community College in supporting businesses in this region.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. As a new person to the area myself, you come in from the outside and you realize how fantastic this community is and how really the incredible opportunities that we have. And to be at Western Piedmont Community College, a great team here. We're excited to partner, really excited to see the Startup Burke operation move along because entrepreneurship and folks starting businesses is so critical to our community. And so we at the college have traditionally for years supported traditional large employers, industries, businesses. Our Small Business Center has supported startups and small businesses. And so this really now formalizing that and being able to provide some targeted support to folks who are doing entrepreneurial work is so critical. And we look at the folks out there and know that it's tough, especially folks who've been brave enough to start something in a pandemic on top of everything else. And having a great opportunity to work with folks like Suzanne. We want to be here to support you who are starting businesses, whether that's taking a class yourself or coming and looking to us as you expand and you need employees or just need advice on things that are going on. We have a lot of resources and we are excited to be here for you. We truly believe very strongly in the community part of our name and being community focused. And so if there's anything that we can do, please reach out to us. We have great connections with other colleges, other universities, and other agencies around us. And if there's something we can't do, we're going to reach out to help find the resources for you to do those things. So look forward to partnering and hearing the questions today. And just thank you, Stephanie and the folks here, and really the great work that we're doing. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And to help with our introductions and get us going today, I would like to introduce myself, Caitlin Smith, who helps us keep the Startup Burke program running. Caitlin, over to you.
Thanks, Steph. Hey, everybody, I'm Caitlin. I've been with Supportedly for almost a year. And one of my favorite things about building these startup programs is the opportunity to meet and hear from individuals in the region who support their fellow entrepreneurs, whether it's in a networking capacity or a more formal capacity like Suzanne at the Small Business Center. So today we've brought a couple of Burke County's local entrepreneurs, as well as a few of the individuals who work so hard to support those businesses in the region. We brought them together today to talk about their experiences. Before we dive in, I'd like to introduce everyone. First, we have Beth Allen, owner of Successful Strides. We also have Tamika Garrison, longtime family employee at Texas Fish Camp. Tanya Stevenson, she is the president of the Burke County Chamber of Commerce. Eddie Gimsey, our former Small Business Center director, as well as Suzanne Wallace, our current Small Business Center director at Western Piedmont Community College. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining the roundtable today. We can go ahead and get started. To our listening audience, we like these discussions to be as informal as possible. If you have a question, please feel free to drop it into the QA form at the bottom. If you have a question, Carrie will definitely take that question and run with it and make sure that it gets answered. And we are ready to get started. Stephanie, I'll kick it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Caitlin. So for this first portion or segment of our roundtable, I would love to get to know our participants just a little bit better and get their perspective on small business starts and entrepreneurship. So first, I would like to, Beth, would you mind kicking us off and telling us a bit about your business and what led you to entrepreneurship and business ownership?
Hi there. My business is equine assisted work. I do a lot of different programs matching people with horses, mostly mental health area, personal growth and learning. And it's mostly outdoors. We're in arenas, we're in pastures. So it really has done okay since, even with COVID and everything, we've been able to kind of keep going a little bit. I started this because I used to be an educator. I was a teacher and an administrator in school, and then I started doing some working with horses and found the combination partnership between horses and humans was really strong for personal growth. So started the business a few years ago, decided to kind of take both my passions and go with it. And the small business center and Eddie, actually I went and talked to Eddie a couple times when I started, and it was extremely helpful when I did that.
Wonderful. And I want to dig into that a little bit more here in a minute, Beth, and maybe this does lead into that, but just as a quick follow on, can you describe what it's like running a business in your county?
Well, it starting up was tough, trying to figure out kind of what type of business setup to do and things like that. But in Burke County, it's been great because I think we have support services that really help. And I do have to say, once I got involved with the Chamber of Commerce, with Tanya, I know she's on here, and I'm not just saying it just because she's on here, but that truly has been huge help to me. There's been a few different things that have come through there, webinars, and they also have put my information out to the public, to people that I might not have normally been able to reach out to. So I think that, and those key things, the small business center to help starting the business was huge. The fact that we have that right here in our community, and then that connection with the chamber right for here in Burke County. I know not every community has that so close.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for that. And then I'd like to kick it over to Tamika. You have great perspective as a member of a family-owned business on how supporting small businesses can help your local community. So can you tell us a little bit about Texas Fish Camp and the perspective you have on supporting your business and other small businesses in Burke County?
Absolutely. We have had a family-owned business for a long time. Texas Fish Camp was built in 1972 by my grandfather, and it was a direct result of closing down his previous family business, which was a lumber company and construction company. And when his health began to decline, he had 10 children, and so he wanted to build a business that could support the community. And so in 1972, Texas Fish Camp opened its doors to the community, and ever since we've been actively involved in and supported by our small community. Do you want me to share the statistics now about the?
I would love for you to. Yeah, I love your perspective on that.
Okay, so being raised in a family business that is so remote as Texas Fish Camp is, we we like to say that we're a destination because we're not in a place like you're shopping and you just stumble upon it because you're hungry. People intend to go to Texas Fish Camp. And so some of the things that we were looking into over the course of the past 10 years as the economy began to fluctuate were some of the ways that we could figure out exactly what the influx of businesses and how that affects the, general radius around us. So I found a statistic that says nationally, if you put $100 into a small business, approximately $70 of that stays within your local community. And the ways in which that happens is it's supporting someone that lives in that community that works there. It's supporting any of the benefactors that the business itself is supporting. For example, Little League baseball team or the cheerleading fundraiser. Also, we've been privileged over the past, 30 years or so to be able to host a multitude and abundance of fundraising events, something that owning your own business and building enables you to do is to be able to reach out to people in that way and to really generate a lot of profit for individuals who are struggling financially.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that perspective. Moving to Suzanne, can you help us understand the support provided by the Small Business Center and what drew you to this role to begin with?
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you to the Supportedly team that has helped provide the Startup Burke website for our community. And I appreciate the support of Dr. Welch and being a part of this community in Western Piedmont has just been an inspiration. I know this last year has been a challenge to some because of the times that we're in, but I think we've all learned a lot. And for the Small Business Center, we have been able to work with individuals that have had challenges, help them come up with solutions to get through last year. We all see the news. We see how businesses are affected by what has happened. And we have just been trying to work with folks to help them overcome things so they can still earn an income and provide for their employees. In addition, we still do training. We've had to move most of our training to webinars. And so I think at this time, a lot of us are overwhelmed with the number of webinars that are available, but we are able to still provide that through some means so that we can get information to individuals. And I've been surprised by the number of people who have wanted to start businesses. And some of it has been a direct impact from being affected by COVID. So we are here to support individuals, provide them with guidance, making sure that there is a market, that it's a feasible venture to get into before they spend their life savings on something. And, we're just here to offer that support and be available and a resource for them as they're getting started, as well as if they're in business and having challenges.
Thank you so much for that, Suzanne. Absolutely. And I think that we're going to see that need for, we've seen a huge increase in the need for support for existing businesses. And now that we're seeing additional small business starts, which is extremely, of course, encouraging to see, that network and that support that you provide is going to be even more important in your community as we continue to move forward and move away from, fingers crossed, the pandemic and everything that we've seen in the past year. And with that, so Tanya, can you tell us a little bit about the Chamber of Commerce? your role as president and how the chamber helps existing and new businesses in the county.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie, and to all the team for including me today. I love it when I get to talk to small businesses and let them know what the chamber does, because so many people, especially just getting started, don't really realize what we're here for. A lot of people think we're just the government, but we're not government at all. We are a nonprofit that we exist solely for the businesses of Burke County. And the majority of my members are small businesses. So they are our meat and potatoes, if you will, of who we serve. We are here to serve all businesses, but we do spend a lot of time counseling and helping and supporting, promoting our small businesses, helping them to meet up with other small businesses or other businesses that they can benefit from, that they can work with, that they can support each other. I love the fact that two of your panelists are two of my small businesses that I'm honored to get to work with and try to promote and help grow their businesses. We're all about growing the businesses of Burke County, and whether that's through making sure that people know that there is a destination fish camp on the eastern part of our county, or if it's making sure that if there is a group of teachers who need to learn how maybe better to help them to be better suited to react with students who are not necessarily your best children, they can call Beth and go down Successful Strides and learn how horses really teach you the best way to react with different people. I've seen it firsthand. It's amazing. So it is our pleasure at the chamber each and every day to come into work and know that we are helping our businesses be more successful. And that's what we're here for. Sometimes it might be promotions. Sometimes it may be ideas for how to do operations. Sometimes it may be referring them to Suzanne for the stuff that she has at the Small Business Center and all the resources she has. So whatever it might be, we are here to support the businesses of Burke County and help to see them grow in whatever perspective that may look like for that business.
Thank you, Tanya. And that is such a great point too, as far as, it's one of the things that I love the most about getting to know these communities and communities like Burke County is the connectedness that exists and the true sense of community that these regions do have and the support that they have for their small businesses. So it's just awesome to hear about the relationships, Tanya, that you have with the business owners, with Suzanne, and the connectedness as well. And Eddie, I would love, and we're so glad to have you here as well to give your perspective today. So I would love to hear a little bit about yourself and your experience with the Small Business Center, and then also your perspective on starting a business in Burke County. What is it that you find is unique and awesome about the region?
Well, I'll try really hard. You might have to ring the bell and cut me off. So my family's been in Burke County for probably 6 generations, and I grew up like a couple of other people in a business atmosphere. Our family ran Morgan Hardware for 105 years before I sold it. Of course, I was probably condemned by the family for doing that, but it was a choice that needed to be made. So I have a strong history in retail business, and when you run a hardware store, you get to know your community, and you traveled out in the community, and so that was a good upbringing. But it didn't really teach me about small business. You would think it did, but until I got involved with the Small Business Center at the college, did I really come to get an appreciation for the passion that some folks have for wanting to start a business, and to realize that passion can overcome a lot of other roadblocks. And it may be the most critical element that an entrepreneur has in being successful. My wife, Sherry, is a dance instructor in town, and her studio is in her 40th year. So from a small startup to having a half a dozen, 10 or 12 students, to growing very large, and now in the end trying to figure out a way to comfortably keep in business and manage things. You know, it's really been unique in seeing her passion for what she wanted to do and how she made choices about running her business. And so from a single sole proprietor, I got to see that evolve, and all of that together. I really have a deep appreciation for entrepreneurship and particularly small businesses. Uh, in Burke County is an awesome place. I love talking to people that have just moved here, and I hope Dr. Welch, I know he'll get very connected to our unique, and Suzanne too, coming into Burke County. You know, we have such a diverse group of people, from conservative people that help manage and run our county to a very progressive group inside the city limits of Morganton. And, you know, both together kind of give us the both of both worlds. But one unique thing that I want to share is that all of our organizations in our county have always supported entrepreneurship and small business. It's sort of, and it's brought the county together. If anything else, in a small way, they do, it kind of bonds the county, I think. And Advantage West gets some credit for that, because back 16 years ago, they ran a certified entrepreneurial community program. And Burke had a community in Valdez, North Carolina, that really wanted to participate in that. The county was being a little iffy because there were some matching funds, and they were, you know, entrepreneurship wasn't that important. They were looking at industry growth, because Burke County, I think 40% of the employees back then worked in industry. It was huge. We were really committed to industry. But that got passed. We became a certified community, and that involved really bringing all of our towns and municipalities together to commit to supporting entrepreneurship growth. The college was a key element in that, as they helped participate in a grant to help fund my first job, to help coerce that group together. So currently, the job I have now part-time is a resource for small business startups and existing businesses. I work as a business development counselor for VDEC, which is Valdez Economic Development Investment Company. And we do small business lending, generally loans from 5 to 10 to 250,000. And that can involve startups and medium-sized businesses. So that is a great resource for our county to have, for one, because it is an alternative funding for small business. We work directly, you know, Tanya's on our board, Suzanne's on our board. So we have, and plus each municipality in the county is represented on our board. So we get a lot of input there. So I could go on and brag about Burke County. There's so many neat things. You know, we just really, we're big enough to be dangerous, but small enough to be very homey. So, you know, and I think that's a great feeling, when you can know your neighbors, but yet have some resources to deal with. Thank you. And I appreciate everyone's participation, and appreciate the opportunity to be a part of your group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eddie. And I'm going to kick it over to Caitlin. I think you have some questions to keep us going with.
Yeah, thank you. Starting off with Tamika, do you see any unique challenges in a family-owned and operated business? And if so, what are some of the ways that you handle those challenges?
Well, yes, of course, family dynamics are a challenge of their own, even at home. But when you add the work element into it, then it creates another level of difficulty sometimes. One of the things that we've kind of lived by before even I was born into this world was that you put your family first. And I think that a lot of times that family's subjective. It's not just people that you're genetically related to. Especially owning a small business, your business base becomes like a family. And so in order to entrust people to be able to make your business successful, and to look at some of the different ways in which you can be successful in yourself in that business, is to really just be able to trust the individuals that you work with. And that can be kind of tricky sometimes. We have a large family. We've employed, I think, 5 of my grandparents' 10 children, and we're now on like the 5th generation of family working at the restaurant. I myself have been there 25 years and I've seen a lot of things change and a lot of things go under the bridge. But most importantly, it's kind of like in a good committee meeting, you have the people sitting in the room that are there for a reason, that are elected to be there. And when there's a disagreement, you just kind of have to take the majority and roll with it and come out with a good attitude on the other side.
Thank you. That's really insightful into what it's like to work with your family. Kicking it over to Beth. Is there a tool or a piece of software, whether it's a payment system or a resource that you have found that has really helped you in your small business and that you think that other entrepreneurs should really know about?
I guess one of the best that I've used as far as some of the financial pieces is things like Square and PayPal, making sure that you have something like that. I mean, I have some people, you know, the cash payment kind of piece, and because of the work I do, I didn't anticipate having people want to use credit cards and that kind of payment. So I didn't have that at the beginning, and then found that as I started using that, I, you know, had those kind of accounts that I had people that they would be, okay, now I can pay this. I don't have the cash on hand, but I'll charge it, that kind of thing. So besides your typical, you know, social media kind of tools, you know, Facebook and Instagram, that kind of piece to get some of the information out, I would say the biggest business tool would be that financial component. And my business is so small, I don't use any other kind of payroll or any employee type things because it's me. So.
Thank you. That's really important. You're right. Being able to collect payment as well as social media for marketing. I know that especially nowadays that has been a really profitable channel for some small businesses in Burke. Kicking it back over to Tamika. Your business is super well established. Like you've said, you've been through a few generations. Have there been times, either currently in the pandemic or in the past, where you've made changes to the businesses, and how has that affected the business?
Yeah, there's certainly something to being well established, and people appreciate that. That's a selling point in and of itself. Knowing that you have provided a service for close to 50 years is something that people are going to look at and say, yeah, I'll give this a shot. We have had to make some adjustments, and I think the biggest challenge in making changes in a business that's been open for 50 years is making gradual and subtle changes so that people don't think you're changing the entire face of the business. Because I think that when people get into trying to rebrand or like making menu changes, because people are not always in the deep fried food mood, especially with health being more of a concern. I think the biggest thing is to make sure that you're not giving the impression that you were doing it wrong before, and also trying to empower that progression like Ed was talking about, and making changes that are suitable to what the changes in society are. And so some of the changes that we have made is adding menu items. Our menu has expanded a lot over the course of the past 20 years to offer some healthier items and some grilled options, and to reach a different group of people, because we are geared towards families. And so you want to have something for everybody in that sense.
I like that you said we don't want to make changes seem like the first part was a mistake.
Right.
That actually brings me to a follow-up question for both Tamika and Beth. What is a failure that you've had that has actually ended up contributing to your success? Maybe at the time you saw it as a stressful failure, but it actually ended up teaching you a lesson that has helped your business succeed?
I'll go, since I'm unmuted, I'll go ahead and go first. I think failure is a strong word. I'm a pastor in my time of not being at my family restaurant, so I try to keep things positive. But I will say some of the things we've struggled with were social media was a kind of a, do you put yourself out there in that way? And in the beginning of that time, it was scary because you had a lot of people bouncing a lot of different opinions back and forth. I will say one of the things that has held us back over the years is not being a part of things like the Small Business Center and the Chamber of Commerce. They have provided services to us, and I'm not just saying this as a selling point because I'm here as a result of them. I'm here to say that my grandfather never advertised. He said, if you don't have people using word of mouth, then you're doing something wrong. And I agree with that to a certain degree. However, I think that the services that these two are providing to just our community alone is empowering businesses to be able to relax and say, somebody's got our back. We're not in this alone. And so I don't necessarily think that that's a failure on our part. I think the reluctancy of it was kind of putting a ceiling, and now we're looking at a skylight and saying there are options. So that's pretty much how I think that we have been able to move forward, especially through the pandemic.
Thank you, Tamika. I love that reframe. Beth, have you faced any challenges that have led to your business's success?
I would say, again, the same as Tamika, the word failure is I don't know, that's a tough one, but I do believe that we have to fail often, as long as we fail forward and keep moving. So I think for me, one of the biggest pieces was feeling like I wasn't succeeding, was getting the numbers of people out here at first and part of that I think comes from being able to help people understand what it is this business does. Like what service do I provide? So I would say that has probably been one of my largest struggle areas. And I think as I'm able to show more and more people, have them actually experience what it is that we do, then it helps those failures become less. The piece of that, and again, going back to something Tamika said about the services we have here and trying to use things like social media, and feeling a little bit like, yeah, that's putting myself out there. This business is at my home. You're opening yourself up to a lot of different people coming out. So, that exposure was a little bit difficult. But what I've found over the last couple of years, and I'm new, we're really small, but still growing, and having people like the chamber, as I said before, being able to put out the information and being connected in that way, I think it adds a piece of professionalism to something that people don't understand or know, because it's a little bit, different than what people understand about working with horses. And I think it offers other people in the community that piece of trust. Like, okay, if the chamber is saying this is a viable service for you, then you should probably check it out. So, because I've had people come and they heard about what I do through communications from the chamber, things like that. More so, I've had more of that than I have had through things like Facebook and Instagram. And then the rest of it has been that word of mouth, which was unexpected for me. I thought that once, you go out on social media, you put it on Facebook, start telling people, sharing experiences, have some opportunities for people to come out, that it would have kind of been like, oh, wow, this is so awesome. We have to go do this. But it's really come from the business has come from a different place. Part of that, I believe, is related to the past year. The things that have happened, people are looking for something new. One of the courses that I teach, we have the person I work with has something we call FANAFY. It's called Find a Need and Fill It. So once we find the need and put it out there, that and kind of sticking to that has been extremely helpful in bringing people out too.
Thank you, Beth. So you mentioned that you use the Chamber of Commerce as a resource. Do you remember the very first place that you went for inspiration when your business was just an idea?
I contacted Eddie at the Small Business Center. I did a little bit of research, Google type thing, and to just say, okay, what do I do? How do I kind of get going? And I have to say, he was great. And talking to Eddie, I went there a couple different times, and asking me questions that really had me thinking more about what is it that I really want to do? How do I want to set up this business? He also provided me with information to the small business, courses and online courses and things like that to get some assistance. So I would, after doing my own little bit of research and being led there, that was one of the very first places I went.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. The Small Business Center is certainly an awesome resource. Kicking it back over to Suzanne, Eddie, and Tanya, I'd love to hear about your experiences working with the entrepreneurs. Is there one thing or a main thing that you'd want entrepreneurs who are just starting out to know based on your experience?
I guess I'll go first. I think the first thing I'd want them to know is that there are resources available and there's information, whether it's the Small Business Center, classes at the college. I think getting as much information about starting your business before you actually start can be so beneficial after they start their business, because then they have information that can be helpful in making decisions that they will need to make as a business owner.
I think one thing that occurred to me a couple of years into my job as a small business center director was probably the realization that when somebody called my office or came by my office, that was a huge step for them. And Beth may experience. I mean, you people sit at home and ponder an idea and maybe talk about it with their parents or grandparents or husband or wife, kind of like Tamika was talking. Maybe they didn't come out soon enough and talk to some people, but it's a huge step, to come in the office and ask for assistance. There's a little intimidation there. And I came to realize that everybody that made an effort to contact us at the Small Business Center, they really had something burning that they wanted to know. And I think it was our job, or my job, to not extinguish that flame that I would identify, whether it was a passion for the business or a passion for making a profit or a passion for supporting their family. There was usually something there that was sparking an interest in wanting to reach out for help as well as do the business. So trying to develop that, I think, is a key thing when working with entrepreneurs, is really, trying to lead them and not teach them so much, but lead them to discover who they are and what the business needs to be and what the business can do in relation to what their needs are. That's sort of our professional ability to say, well, you can run that business, but you're not going to get rich running that business. And if that's your goal at the end, then you're not going to be happy somewhere in the road in the process. But if your goal is to provide a service, provide a living, then things can fit. And I think that's where, and I think it's a personal success too, when people choose careers and jobs, is it needs to fit what their goals are. And if they don't think about a goal, and it doesn't have to be a big goal, it needs to be small goals that reach a bigger goal. And the failure thing is great. I think that discussion on failure, I generally, you don't know you failed if you didn't create a goal. So I think a lot of businesses, people hurt themselves by not really setting a mark or a goal. They don't what the failure then is a feeling that they feel. It's not an actual reality. It can become more reality if they actually set a goal and achieve it. They can still not run the business well, but they did achieve one goal, so they shouldn't feel bad about it. I think it's a little tricky thing we play on ourselves sometimes when we talk about failures and goals and achievements. So yeah, entrepreneurs are great though. I mean, I love working with folks that have a passion for their business. Thank you.
I'll just add a couple of things. There's two things I really try to encourage entrepreneurs with. One is they're not alone. And, I jokingly came up, or I didn't jokingly, I came up with the thoughts of that, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I personally feel like Suzanne, the Small Business Center, as well as the Chamber, the SPDC, there's so many organizations at the Small Business Administration. We're all out here to be the village for the small businesses and for entrepreneurs to figure out what they're doing. So I don't want anyone to feel like that they're alone. So if they would just reach out to us and wave the flag that they need help, we will help them, regardless if it's Suzanne that they call first or me or whoever. We are here to help them, and they're not alone. The other thing I really encourage people is education, because I meet so many entrepreneurs that come in and they love washing cars, for instance. So they're going to make a business out of washing cars, and they can wash cars and detail a car like nobody's business, but they don't have a clue about the business side of it. And I just really encourage them to not just jump in both feet and not know anything about a business. And they need to learn about payroll. They need to learn about P&Ls and balance sheets and profit margins and the whole 9 yards. And the Small Business Center and the Western Piedmont Community College, now supportedly with Support Burke, there's a lot of resources out there. And I really just encourage them to not just jump in with both feet, but to really learn before they actually start it. Because we don't ever want to see somebody put their entire life savings into a business and then it not be successful. So that's the two things that I really like to encourage entrepreneurs with.
Thank you for that, Tanya. And payroll, I'll tell you what, just when you think you know, you don't know. So that is great advice as far as making sure that we're reaching out to our resources, and we just love being able to highlight our resources in these regions. And that's just, it's something that's very, very important to us to ensure that entrepreneurs know how much support is available. I have a couple questions for our entrepreneurs on the panel, but before we kick it over, there was something I wanted to just, with the discussion around help and where to go and that sort of thing and how early to go, I would love to hear first from Suzanne, and this is a commonly asked question as far as like a point of maybe confusion that we hear just in general, not necessarily in your region, but how prepared do entrepreneurs need to be, Suzanne, when they come to you? Let's say they're still in the idea phase. How prepared should they be coming through the door? Is there a minimum amount of preparedness that they need to do with a one-page business plan or anything like that? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
When someone calls us and they're wanting to explore the idea of starting a business, they don't need to prepare anything to come in and have a conversation. So they can come in, tell us their idea, share their interest, and then we can guide them from there. And I think a lot of people just want to have that conversation with somebody They may think it's silly. They want somebody else's opinion. They don't know what to do next. So we can work with anybody where they are and provide them direction on getting to the next step.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And Tanya, similar question for you. I do sometimes hear from entrepreneurs who say, well, I can't go to the chamber yet because I don't have a business yet. I may be still in the idea phase or just starting out. Can you talk a little bit about when it's appropriate for an entrepreneur to come and see you over at the chamber?
Yes, thank you for this question. Actually, we will talk to anybody at any stage of the game because we want to see businesses be successful. If it's a startup or if it's Tamika, who's been here almost 50 years, we want them to be successful. So we'll talk to anybody at any stage. And we've got some great professionals on our team who will sit down and go through an idea with them. Most of the time, if they're in their idea stage and they need a business plan and they need work like that, we keep a stack of Suzanne's cards here. So we are really quick to refer them to Suzanne and the Small Business Center. She and I work very closely. So, a lot of times I'll say, hey, I talked to this person today and they've got this great idea. And we try to be their first cheerleader if they choose to come to the chamber before they go to the Small Business Center. And, we're trying to help them, and we got to give them ideas of, here's some questions to ask Suzanne, especially if we feel like we build a good rapport with them at first. And so we try to help support them and help them with liftoff. But then we definitely, when it comes to them being still an idea, we try to get Suzanne involved and have her expertise in that area. And then we tell them to come back and see us once the business is up and running. And we want to help launch their business and send it into orbit once they've gotten all the resources and help that Suzanne and the Small Business Center provides.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna bully you in a minute because I got to brag about Tanya, and really I think in Burke County, you don't see this happening in every county, and I don't know even in North Carolina, the unique nature of the way people work together in Burke County, particularly for entrepreneurs, hasn't always been that way, but it got that way and it's staying that way. And Tanya, some of our former chamber directors, they would have said, call Eddie at the college. They wouldn't have taken a lot of time with him. And she's very unique and she is very passionate about helping folks. And that means a lot to me, to see that we have a chamber director that's doing those activities and not just to make her feel good. But I bragged about Tanya when she came on board. So she knows I think the world of her. So, but there again, it's because Burke County, I think, has a very nurturing spirit for entrepreneurship, from the college to the county, to the city of Morganton, to all the municipalities, and to the chamber, the Small Business Center, and our group. That's why we have our group. So it's a unique place. So you won't see this happening everywhere. And some entrepreneurs that come here from out of town or other states, and they say, my gosh, you guys work together like this, they're very impressed. And it doesn't go unnoticed. So there's my 2 cents. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate that. So I'm going to move on to just a couple of last questions here. But first, I'm going to pull in Bob Carswell and pick on you for just a minute. We have another entrepreneur joining us, so I want to make sure that we highlight you and your business, and I'll pull you in on some advice as well to other entrepreneurs. So Bob, would you mind just introducing yourself and your business briefly for us?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Bobby Carswell, and I'm a lifelong Burke County resident. So born and raised here, good old grits and gravy kind of guy. But I worked in manufacturing, furniture manufacturing specifically, for 15 years. And I got a background in engineering. I actually worked with the college too over there with the doctor. So, but I kind of saw firsthand in manufacturing a real kind of, job insecurity in manufacturing, and let's see what else, sustainability, no real way to improve environmental practices. So we decided to start a circular economy for textiles. So that means recycling textiles, making them back into a new product to put back onto a cutting room floor. So we work pretty closely with, the name of the business also is Material Return. We work really closely with a lot of manufacturers, Valdez Weavers and Kellex and EJ Victor, all these huge manufacturers to process their waste back into something they can put on their floor again. Yeah, came to this work. We're also a co-op too. I wanted to make sure I started a business that would locally root wealth instead of just make me or whoever else was the manager here rich. I wanted to make sure that everybody in the community that comes to work with us and for us would have a chance to be part owners of the business as well. And I think we work really closely also with Tia Yang from Work and Burke. I'm sure everybody's seen the Work and Burke stuff, but that's all under the same roof. And we have about 7 different co-ops in the works that work all in this area. We're right in downtown near the fire department and near Western Piedmont at the old Duraleaf factory now. So we've moved into, we started in like 3,000 square feet. Now we're up to like 50,000 square feet of textile waste processing. But yeah, is that good enough of a background kind of for the business? Sorry.
No, that's perfect. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. And I'm going to circle back to you on this question just to give you a second as well. But my question for all of our entrepreneur participants, and this is one of my favorite questions to ask because I'm always surprised that there are we have similar answers certainly, but then also we occasionally get that different answer thrown into the mix. So Beth, I will start with you. If you had one piece of advice to give any entrepreneur starting out, and you could just pick one, I know you probably have tons of advice, but if you could just pick one piece of advice to give a fellow entrepreneur who's just starting out in their journey, what would that piece of advice be?
Write it down. Write it down. Write down your ideas, your thoughts, anything that comes to mind. Put it on paper, because that's what you're going to take and then create the actual plan that you're going to use to build. And the plan will change. It will all change, but I would say the biggest piece is write it down. Don't keep it up here.
I love that. That's actually the first time I've heard that advice, and that is stellar advice. Thank you for that, Beth. Tamika, over to you. If you were talking to an entrepreneur just starting out on their journey, what advice would you give them?
Balance. Everything is great in moderation. That goes throughout every aspect of your life. But I think that especially someone starting up a new business can exhaust themselves, putting a lot of time and energy into the business. And if you are not feeling good physically, spiritually, mentally, then that's going to reflect in your business model. And so another thing is a financial balance. It's a lot of people go into business thinking about how they're going to make something extremely profitable, when realistically, you're not looking at making a huge profit right out of the beginning for most new businesses, especially small businesses. So what you need to look at is this providing what I need to get through these first couple of years, and then begin to look at what your profit margins are going to be later.
Love that. Thank you very much. And we're going to circle back to that balance question too, or that balance comment too, just in a minute as well. And Bobby, from your perspective, do you have that piece of advice as well?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice is those networks like what Tanya at the Chamber of Commerce have, and Suzanne. You just have this huge network of like 250 different small businesses and big companies that like we had help from Meridian Specialty Yarn Group in Valdez that we're like, we don't really know too much about HR because we're a bunch of textile recyclers. And she just came and just set us up with this great thing, their HR person. And it was amazing because all businesses, like, especially if you're starting out like this, like they want to help you succeed as well. So yeah, just having this huge network here in just North Carolina. I think this is an amazing part of the state. Like there's a lot of manufacturing, a lot of cool stuff being made, and a lot of like really technical things being done just in Burke County. It's awesome.
That is great. Yeah, I could not agree more, for sure. So we're going to wrap it up with just one final question. And this really does go back to the balance, a conversation around balance. And I am wondering, and I think this is a question that entrepreneurs get, and I don't really have a metric or measure to give you guys with this question. But the idea here is, how often or how long do you work on your business versus in your business? Do you have a sense of the either amount of time or just percentage, or really, I mean, we can, just throw out what feels right as far as your metric there. And I will, Bob, I saw you nodding your head, so I'm going to kick it to you first.
Yeah, this was a difficult thing. When we first started, we provide service routes to the customers, like the companies that we pick up from. And it was 80% of my time was actually physically driving and processing the fabrics. And 20% was like trying to find new clients, doing the balance sheets, the P&L, and getting all that stuff, and doing projections too, to make sure we hit all that. And then now we've actually hired a couple more people. So now it's getting over into the probably, I'd say 20% in the business and then 80% on the business. So it's kind of flip flopped. It was 80-20, now it's 20-80. So, but yeah, that's you can't just work on the business. You need to find people that can work in the business for you, because like I said, you can do everything yourself, but it's hard to do that.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Beth, what about you?
Oh, well, it's definitely shifted since I started a few years ago, which it was probably, 99% looking at it, 1% actually in it. But I guess I haven't done quite the flip as Bob, but right now with getting started again after COVID, I'd probably say I'm about 70-30, 70% still being researching ways to market and doing some of my own learning in that area to help me get the word out about what we do. And then having people actually hear, and because it's me, I don't, and I have people that come and volunteer and that will help me out as needed. But so probably that 30% would be me actually doing the work that we do here right now. But that's going to change.
I love that. And I love the perspective that it does change. So for both Bobby and Beth, I thank you for that perspective as well. And Tamika, do you have perspective on that you want to add before we close out today?
Yeah, I'll probably mirror Beth in saying it's probably a good 70-30, 70 working on and maybe 30 working in. Of course, we're fortunate and unique in the way that we have a lot of different people with hands in it. So we can kind of balance that out with different people having different responsibilities. But I think what's most important is just, again, maintaining that balance, because if you put too much of yourself in it, it's going to reflect in, especially if you're dealing with the public, your customer service. So I would like to close with saying thank you so much for letting us be a part of this today. It's interesting to be a member of Burke County, a member of a small business in Burke County, and to see the way that the web connects itself. We have a couple of employees that are students at Western Piedmont Community College, a couple who have received scholarships through various nonprofits in Burke County and have been supported through other local businesses. So what a wonderful network we have. Again, I think Ed's covered that vastly today too, that we are unique in the way that we have support with one another.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Tamika. And I have to say, these types of conversations, I just leave feeling so energized and positive about the communities that we have and the support that we have for each other. So I really appreciate that. And just as to close this out, and thank you to our audience for sticking with us. I know we're just a couple minutes over, but just to wrap up, for all of our participants today, for our audience today, if you want to know more about our participants, both Beth and Tamika have participated in a video, and we're going to send out the recording for all of our audience members today so that you can review, and we'll also send out our contact information for all the entrepreneurs that were on our panel, as well as our support providers. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and thank our roundtable participants, Beth, Tamika, Bobby, Tanya, Eddie, and Suzanne. Thank you so much for participating. A very special thank you to Dr. Welsh for your support of your support of Burke County. Please feel free to check out Startup Burke at startupburke.com. There you can connect directly with Suzanne. You can check out more information about the chamber and the other support that's available in your region, as well as our free learning modules. There are some learning modules that can help you get started, whether you're in the ideating phase or you're ready to start building out a sales team. We also have a feature there that we are testing that is a QA feature. If you have a question about business, please let us know. There's a very easy form to fill out online, and we'll of course send you the link to that as well following the close of our webinar today. So if you have a question, send it over to us, and what we'll do is we'll turn that into a blog post answering your question. We'll reach out to your support resources in the region and let them know that these are the types of questions that are being asked in the region as well. So whether it has to do with those challenging HR questions, sales questions, marketing questions, we even got a question recently about the best point of sale application to use as well. And we ended up polling our entrepreneurs throughout Western North Carolina to find out their opinions on the best point of sales applications to use and software to use. So please feel free to avail yourself of those resources. Check out startupburke.com. And thank you all very much for participating today. We're real excited about this program and very, very excited about everything that's happening in Burke County.